So thank you so much for being here. So last week we held I'd say, workshop around some trauma issues that so many adult children of alcoholics and adult children of narcissistic parents need to work through. And the better we understand the self, the easier the healing process becomes. The more that we realize and accept that there's really nothing wrong with us, we're not broken. We might be operating from below the veil. We might not have data that we need to progress and to grow and to move beyond a trigger. We might be missing some data, but there's nothing really wrong with us. I would say that myself and the thousands of people that I've coached over the years, we're evidence of that. That once we organize our minds, once we learn what we need to learn in order to heal, oh my gosh, our lives start to work. We start to feel better about ourselves. We stop tolerating abuse from other people. We get better at ending toxic relationships. We get better at saying, okay, all right, got it. Okay, that's how you feel. No problem, you know, and we don't take things so personally anymore. The problem is that we're missing data and we're living below the veil from survival responses, which have been habituated. Ever hear the phrase, we're creatures of habits? We have trauma habits. And oftentimes we go to therapists and very well intended, but we're not getting the help that we need. That was my situation. I went to 5 or 6 therapists. One therapist told me I just wasn't praying hard enough. Another therapist told me that I just didn't love my ex-husband enough. Another therapist told me that there's no sense talking about your past. We're here now and we have to stay in the present. And yet, the therapist that had the greatest impact on me within 45 minutes said, oh, you're clinically depressed, but you're depressed because you're codependent. I was like, what? And you're codependent because there's alcoholism in your family. What? Yeah, I have felt broken and inept and ashamed of myself, ashamed of my reactions, ashamed of my anger, ashamed of my depression, ashamed of my shame, ashamed of my inability to keep myself together as a mother, so stressed all the time. I just felt so beyond fixing. And here in 45 minutes, a therapist who was codependent and had worked it out himself, who had a similar background, in 45 minutes just set me on this course. Like finally, my ship was pointed in the right direction. Now, this therapist did not have a whole lot to say every time I went to go meet him. But what he did say, and I think it goes back to the fact that I was so hungry. I knew that after that first session, oh my God, my childhood wounded me terribly. And now I'm wounding my children. And if I don't wrap my head around this, I'm not going to get better. And so I had a hunger to figure this out. And so I do think that was important. Yes, the therapist was incredible. He had experience. He could tell me you're going in the wrong direction. This is the direction that you should go. These are the books that you should read. You should go to Coda. You should do this, but it was up to me to do it. It was up to me to do it. And what I found at that time was that I loved codependent no more, but it didn't fix me. And I felt at home in a Coda group. But after 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 weeks, the same people are saying the same thing. And this was just my experience. I'm not poo-pooing Coda. This is just my experience. I wasn't getting fixed. I went to Al-Anon. I went to AA meetings thinking maybe a 12-step group will help me. I felt at home with other people who were trying to figure out their shit, but it wasn't helping me fix myself at the subconscious level. I think that's the difference in my recovery is that it clicked for me. Lisa, this is subconscious. This is a matter of repetition, observation, and consistency throughout your childhood. You had an experience, it was painful. Your mother rejected you, she scapegoated you. My mother was cruel to me. And I mean, I babysat my granddaughter today. I can't imagine being cruel to her. But that was my experience. That's my inner child over my shoulder. I keep it there to remind myself you were a baby and you were treated that way. You were not given what you needed to develop a mind that was grounded in self love. So it was grounded in self loathing. So, how could you have attracted people that could love you in terms of law of attraction, which there is only attraction? How could I attract into my experience something I had no experience of? So, all these years as a teenager and as a young wife, I'm blaming myself because I can't get my life together. Because no matter how hard I try, like as a teenager, I was so codependent, so obsessed with boys. And even after my divorce, still relationship addiction, still after the divorce, like what's wrong with me? And the deeper I dug, it was like because you thought that you were healed after you left therapy, you thought leaving this toxic marriage was it. So last week we talked about explicit versus implicit memory. I hope that you guys attended that webinar. So what happened, it's sort of like in the spiritual community, we say this false awakening. So because I had all this intellectual knowledge about codependency, I thought I was fixed. No, I wasn't. I had the explicit memory piece, you know, hands down, I understood it. My mother was the adult child of an alcoholic. My father was the adult child of an alcoholic. My father's mother took her own life when he was like 3 or 4. Tons of freaking trauma. My father's gambling. Okay, get it. My mother was abused as a child, sexually abused, never went through that. Both of them quit high school. Brothers are alcoholics, but domestic violence. I'm piecing this crap all together. I come from a long line of alcoholics and very unwell people. I get it. Okay, I get it. My mother was codependent. Okay, I get it. She programmed me through me observing her to think that in order to keep a man, a woman's role is to keep a man happy at the expense of herself. Okay, get it. That's why I'm codependent. Got it. So it was a lot of mental stuff, like the explicit memory piece, like talk therapy piece. And I was stunned after my divorce to find myself spiraling with abandonment trauma, like all of these emotions, being more addicted to relationships than ever. I get it now because the relationship, as dysfunctional as it was stabilizing me. And when you remove that relationship, that's when all of my abandonment trauma surfaced. I wasn't acting it out anymore. And so during that time, I was severely, severely depressed. And if I didn't have children, I don't know what I would have done. I might not have gotten out of bed. I mean, I probably would have. But I remember thinking, I just want to stay in bed. Like it was like a circuit panel was overloaded. And I kept reading and I kept meditating and I kept journaling. I kept going and going. I was like, okay, I got this. I got this. I got this. I know what's going on. So understanding that I had been unplugged, basically, that I had found the courage to end the relationship because I knew he was going to change and he said it. And I knew that I needed to step into the field of potential rather than stay in the known because the known was not good. And the known was a guarantee that I was going to do to my kids what my mother did to me. And so I was like, fuck it. I got to go. I didn't know where I was going. I just got to go. And I was terrified. And I was pushed off a cliff. And what I mean by that is that I felt like I was falling backwards into a very deep canyon that was like a bottomless pit. Um, but I understand now that that happened because once the relationship was gone, my coping skills were gone. And that took a while for me to figure out. But eventually it really did lead me to the deep dark night of the soul, and I met my demons. I really met my demons. And I'll tell you quickly, I was having a dream. At least it felt like a dream, but to me it was very profound. And in my dream, I was in my bed and there was a demon on each side of the bed, sort of like the alien monster from the Alien with Sigourney Weaver. Like these monsters were real to me. Like I felt like they were real and I could hear them breathing and I had like sleep paralysis and I couldn't wake up. And what they were doing was they were levitating my bed and I was afraid they were going to crush me. But the amazing thing was that at the time I was doing meditation, I was journaling, I was doing a lot of mindfulness work, I was living intent with intention, I was living knowing, Lisa, live above the veil of consciousness, live above the veil of consciousness, challenge that thought. That's just your programming. Doing all of this work like all day long. I mean, I was like a dog with a bone. And I remember saying to the demons, "You're not real. You're not real." In my mind, in my dream, I was speaking to all of the fears of the inner child of me not being good enough and me being unworthy of love and me being broken. So each of these demons represented these ghosts of my past, shame. And I just kept repeating in my dream, and it was full on dream paralysis. But I could think, "You're not real. You're not real." And I kept saying it over and over, "You're not real. You're not real." And the bed came down and they disappeared. And then I woke up immediately. I mean, that was such a profound freaking experience for me. And I really do feel that is what it feel that transition or that transformation, it's super profound when you are able to say to a survival program or to a fear, "You're not real. You're just a thought that I've been thinking over and over and over again. You are a thought that I've believed because as a child, it was unsafe to think, it wasn't safe to talk, and it wasn't safe to feel. And so now I believe that I don't have a right to think. It's scary to think. I don't have a right to feel, and I don't have a right to tell you to buzz off." Right? So those are my survival beliefs. Another belief is I'm unworthy. I don't know why I'm unworthy. I'm just unworthy. Like Mary down the block is entitled to have this amazing relationship with a man who loves her, but I'm not. And Josephine around the corner, she's entitled to have a dream job that she loves, to be a baby photographer, to have her own website and to create her own business. But I have to keep working this job that I hate. I don't know why she's worthy of it, but I'm not. And that's how shame manifests. Right? So, Mark down a couple of blocks, like I don't know what's so different about him, but he's the type of person that can get up and go to the gym before he goes to work, but I'm not allowed to do that. I I have to stay home. I have to self-sacrifice. I don't know why I'm not allowed to go to the gym. I don't know why I don't feel worthy of these things. Literally, this is what it's like to be the adult child. And it's so our norm. We don't know that anything's wrong until someone like me with a big mouth says, "Hey, it's not you, it's your programming." And, your inner being is like, "What? What did she say?" And you just want to listen. Like you just want to pull up a chair and like, the hell is this lady talking about? Right. And if that's you, I'm so glad. That's why you're here. We are so alike, adult children. I mean, I wish it was different, and I think it might be changing, but, like, there's ACOA, Adult Children of Alcoholics, very, very popular and super important, is ACA, same thing, Adult Children of Alcoholics, and then there's Al-Anon for those of us who are married to alcoholics or our children or alcoholics or into addiction, that's fine, but we really do all fit, adult children of narcissistic parents, we fit under that umbrella. because our wounds are the same. And the way that we think, although it's below the veil, it's very similar. We have the same trauma responses. And so that's why with my work, I'm trying to hit it from all angles: adult children of alcoholics, adult children of narcissistic parents, those of us who are codependent. Why? Because if you have a narcissistic parent, you probably, by proxy, have developed codependency to keep the narcissistic parent happy. If you are married to a narcissist, even if you didn't enter the relationship codependent, you're probably going to, at the within a few months or a few years, you're probably going to notice. Well, you might not know what fawning is, but when you hear it, you're like, oh, wow, I lived that way. I fawn after my husband or my wife all the time. So if you're married to an alcoholic who's gaslighting you and stonewalling you, dismissing you, devaluing you, maybe it didn't happen in the beginning, but over time it happened after they stopped idealizing you and you stopped idealizing them. And now, oh my God, like I have so many codependency symptoms. So I speak the language I speak because I really want people to understand just how similar we are. And we are not broken. We are not broken. We lack data, we lack knowledge, we lack hope, we lack a roadmap because you were programmed a specific way. The brain learns a certain way. And that's what I've learned to do. As a matter of fact, here's just found this today, The Science of Learning. When I was building out my coaching programs, I studied this book like it was a manual, because I figured out very early on that, oh my God, like programming is just learning. A child is just learning. Programming is learning. So how do I unlearn? First, before I could help anybody else, I had to unlearn my trauma responses. And then I had to figure out a way to teach myself new responses. And we're going to get into that today. So last week, we talked about explicit versus implicit memory. It's just a short rundown. Explicit memory is like what happened to me. I would say after I got divorced or during the divorce, it was like, oh, I got this. I understand my codependency. No, I understood it intellectually, and I understood I had to leave my marriage intellectually. But that period of falling off the cliff and attracting much worse men than my ex-husband, as far as I'm concerned, taught me a big lesson. That's usually what pain does. Pain is our greatest teacher. The contrast. I thought that things are going to be easier once I got divorced. They're worse. Like, what happened? Grasshopper, grasshopper, grasshopper. And what I learned was really changed my life. That you didn't deal with the inner stuff. You didn't deal with the implicit memory. You didn't deal with the triggers. You didn't deal with the subconscious beliefs. You were all in your head. And so we talked about that last week. And I really hope that you had an opportunity to participate in that workshop. Today, we're going to be talking about boundaries versus guilt. I wanted to talk about this because boundaries are so tough for adult children. They're incredibly difficult, if not impossible, for codependents. And the other thing that I want to say is I've always had an issue with when people talk about red flags, even though I've made videos about red flags. But for me, I didn't know. To me, when someone was nice to me, when I met them, let's say a man is nice to me, that wasn't a red flag. That was a green flag. Because people that I loved were cruel to me. That was the norm. So someone being cruel to me was not a red flag. That was the norm. So the opposite was true for me. You give me a little bit of attention as a codependent, that's a green flag for me. I had to teach myself and unlearn this infatuation response, this limerence response. I had to unlearn that response from a higher state of consciousness. I had to navigate this teenager in me that got all aflutter when a man paid attention to me. I had to tame that wounded teenager and teach her, no, 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 that's infatuation and that's unhealthy. Literally, I had to teach myself how to do that. And that would be an example of a personal boundary that you would have to learn how to take on and practice. An external boundary would be you've met someone and you are realizing that they're coming on too fast. And you take this workshop and you're like, wow, okay, I'm starting to feel like really activated and I consciously know I don't really know this person, but I'm feeling infatuation happening. I'm feeling attraction happening. Yes, you're going to feel attraction, but attraction is just familiar. That was like, what? It was a huge, like, aha breakthrough moment for me. So I'm attracted to men that have a similar energy to my mother and my father. Nice little toxic combination there because that's familiar. Hmm. That's the same reason you have this huge football field and you have a piano on one end and a piano on the other end. You strike the C chord of one piano and all the way down on the other end of the football field, the C chord vibrates on the other piano. In terms of quantum language, that's called non locality. It should not happen, but it happens. And so, yes, I can walk into a room of 100 eligible bachelors that are looking for a woman like me. But if I am not in resonance with 99 of them who are healthy, I'm going to be attracted to the narcissist in the group because that's what's familiar to me. I will not see the other 99 that are looking at me or interested in me. I'll find them annoying. Get out of here. What the hell's wrong with you? It would be so unfamiliar to me that a kind person, a genuine person, wants to get to know me. Does not compute, does not compute. I don't have the data for it. I don't have the data for it. Dude, you're not a C chord. I'm a C chord. I'm an F chord, whatever. You're not an F chord. Get out of here. You leave me alone. And so it took me a while to like work all this out, but it is so freaking worth it. I'm with Anthony now. It's going on 16 years. And there's no way in the world that I would have been able to attract Anthony, who is such a balanced human being, if I didn't do this work. So I'm evidence that no matter what has happened to you, if you get the data, if you practice, you can reprogram the subconscious mind. But you have to see it as learning and unlearning. You also have to understand that there's short term and there's long term memory. So watching a YouTube video, it's not going to last. Listening to a podcast, not going to last. It's repetition and consistency over a significant amount of time that's going to change you. And when it hit me, I thought, where am I going to be in 15 years? If I never give up today, where might I be? I'm sitting right here. Sitting right here. Or I think that was around 2015, maybe 2020. There I was. So I'm evidence and I am proof that this work works. And so I hope that that inspires you. So the reason we're going to talk about boundaries and guilt this week is because it is such a rampant issue for those of us who were raised by unhealthy people in toxic homes. We weren't allowed to say no. You're not allowed to say no. Maybe mom wasn't allowed to say no. Maybe dad wasn't allowed to say no. You're not allowed. If you were adopted out, then you might have all this abandonment trauma and unworthiness and fear like, oh no, if I don't smile at my adoptive mother, she might get rid of me because my biological mom did. And so we don't talk. We don't tell the truth. There's so much fear with telling the truth. That's a boundary issue. Boundaries were violated when you were a child. You were not allowed to form a boundary. An ego boundary starts to form between the ages of 2 and 3. And those are the toughest years in a child's life. Well, actually, for the mother and the father. Terrible twos, no. Terrible threes, yes. That's where kids are really rough. Why? Because they're developing their ego. That's mine. That's mine. And when we don't let children have that, that's mine, or I don't like pasta. I don't like broccoli. I don't like that. They're figuring out who they are. They're all emotional and impulsive. But if you really step back, they're developing their I. Like, I like this and I don't like that. But unhealthy parents, immature parents, we have issues with that because we think, oh, she's so strong willed, or oh, blah, blah, blah. The baby's just trying to form an ego. If you have an alcoholic or a narcissist for a parent, that period of your life, you are the baby that sits there like a soldier and doesn't say anything. You are terrified. I've heard people say, oh, he's such a good baby. And I'm like, that baby's hypervigilant. He's 3. He should be throwing shit around the room. He should be climbing. He should be playing with blocks. He shouldn't be staring at the adults in the room. That baby's already hypervigilant. What's going on in that home? My parents used to brag, oh, you guys were so good. You guys were like soldiers. It took me years to understand. It's because we were afraid. We were constantly afraid. And so my nervous system was afraid. And so I married afraid of upsetting my ex-husband, afraid of his disapproval. I had no healthy boundaries. I was afraid of saying no to his family, no to my family. I was so afraid. Everything was afraid. So it's taken me some time to understand the subconscious piece and then to piggyback on the nervous system piece where I had to regulate my nervous system. And I love this work because you can do it all through the conscious field, all through consciousness. You can do it. And it's exciting once you start to master this and once you start to like rock and roll. It's like, oh my God, this works. It works. So let's get to why you are here. So boundaries versus guilt. Also in the chat, I believe, I think we added it to the chat or it might be in the Q&A. Let me check. I added where did I add that? I think it's in the chat. There's a file in the chat that you guys can download. Okay, so adult children struggle with boundaries because we actually do not know what to do. Again, there is a missing data piece. We do not have the data or the program for choosing the self. You weren't allowed to. So you don't have, it's like, imagine if you never knew what the color blue was. Isn't the sky beautiful? I don't know. You can't see blue. You don't have a chip for that. You don't have a frequency for that. So we struggle because of a lack of data and experience with boundaries and honoring ourselves. But we also struggle because our nervous system will always default to safety. So if as a child you were taught like I was that speaking up was dangerous, then your brain and your nervous system, your subconscious mind associates safety with self-abandonment. It's going to default to safety because a belief will always win out over your will. That's why the subconscious piece is so important. So, if we associate safety with not setting a boundary, our nervous system learned that connection and safety to others required self abandonment. It's all happening below the veil of consciousness. Making it conscious is only one part of the puzzle, that's awareness. But you have to flesh this out and you have to change the program and you have to change the somatic energy tied to these beliefs also. As children, love felt conditional. Safety depended on keeping others regulated. Saying no risked rejection or punishment. Does that sound familiar? So today, even healthy boundaries can trigger guilt, anxiety, or the fear of abandonment. Of course they will. So feeling guilty during boundary setting doesn't mean that you're wrong. It might indicate that you are experiencing cognitive dissonance by holding two conflicting beliefs, wants, or desires at once. Here's an example. You want to say something to your pushy sister. You want to set a boundary. You want things to change, but you are afraid to say anything. You are worried that she will blow up. You are so scared that things will only get worse. But it can also mean that your higher self is ready to bring this conflict to the surface. And if you choose a new decision and you stick with it, your nervous system has a chance to upgrade. So, as long as you don't push through that fear of setting a boundary, you're always going to default to that relationship in which your sister is pushing you around. So, think of it as an opportunity or a call to arms to bring the conflict to the surface and see what happens. The thing that I always tell my clients and the people in the Break the Warrior membership and the programs is just be mindful. Don't take any action and don't say anything unless you believe that you can withstand the consequences. So if your sister's going to blow up and tell you to go F yourself and you're never going to be able to see your niece and your nephew again, just make sure that you're going to be able to withstand her reaction. Very, very important. So you want to remember that boundaries feel dangerous to the part of you that learned love had to be earned and safety meant not speaking up. Now, let's talk about emotional regression. As a matter of fact, this just came up in our private membership group last night about emotional regression. Many adult children feel ashamed when they regress emotionally around family. I know that that happened to me. I was feeling really good about myself and went to therapy and I was doing all my reading. And then on a Sunday meal for pasta, I would shrink and I would sit at the dining room table and hope that nobody started with me. So I felt like, is this healthy? Like, why am I not walking in there with the stainless steel spine? I finally understood it. So we will ask ourselves sometimes, why am I reacting like this again? Or I thought I healed this. This isn't regression, it's implicit memory activation. And the fact that you notice this is happening to you when you are around your family indicates higher cognitive function. There's awareness there. All you have to do is learn not to judge what you notice so you can allow your memories to surface. Your nervous system, remember, is below the veil of consciousness. It remembers tone, facial expressions, roles, and emotional atmospheres. So when you walk back into your family home, when you walk back into this relationship dynamic, your inner being, your subconscious, your body might take on that role again. It's like being pulled back into this weird dysfunctional vortex. And if you're not aware of what's happening, you will judge yourself, but you don't have to. Now, this happens before the conscious mind can intervene. But the minute you notice it, that's where all your power is. So, healing doesn't mean you stop having these types of reactions, it means you learn how to stay present with them. You're not becoming a child again. Your nervous system is remembering how it once had to survive. It's just data. Your aim is to observe whatever reactions you have without reacting, without judging, escaping, or minimizing them. Simply observe from a higher state of consciousness, invite these uncomfortable feelings to tea and allow them to be processed as they should have been allowed to do years ago. I believe that depression is suppression and healing is expression. So here's the grief beneath the holiday triggers that we've all, many of us, experience during this season. The holidays often activate grief that was never fully acknowledged. Hear me. The parent that you didn't have, the safety that you longed for, the connections that you never experienced, the sense of safety that you ached for, the hope that this year would be different, that this time it would change, that this conversation, they would hear you. That's grief, and it may have never been acknowledged. When I was early on in the inner child recovery journey. I remember crying for days and knowing, okay, this is good. This is good. I call it a pocket of pain. And it was the grief coming to the surface of, oh my God, I'm never going to have that relationship with my mom. I'm never going to have that relationship with my father. I'm never going to have that loving brother sister bond. I'm never going to feel super, super protected by my brother. I'm never going to feel super, super authentically connected with my sister. There isn't one member of my family that I'm going to really be able to bond with. And that was just so sad, but it was grief, but it was also real. And so, grief, in terms of being a trigger during the holidays, sometimes it's that. It's like when we realize, man, I'm never going to have that. My family still is who they are. And I have to go through that. I have to allow myself to grieve that. Many adult children minimize this grief because they think, well, others had it worse and I should just be grateful, or that just happened in the past. But ungrieved loss doesn't disappear. It shows up as anxiety, anger, fawning, depression, seeking approval, and even numbness. Grief is not a weakness, especially during the holidays. It can be an integration process. When you acknowledge how you feel, you are processing the emotional states and experiences your inner child was never allowed to acknowledge. Just keep it rolling, suck it up, buttercup, get over it. That type of mindset, at least that's how many of us grow up. It has been said that it is not the trauma that hurts the child the most. It is the inability and the denial to experience the emotional and spiritual pain or discomfort of the trauma. So it's not about what happened as much as it is we were silenced and we weren't allowed to process the trauma. We had no sacred witness. So today, like I said, I was babysitting my granddaughter and she bumped into a step stool and she cut the back of her foot and she got really spooked by it. And I'm watching her and she's kind of melting down. So I just picked her up and I said to her, "Are you scared?" And she said, "Yes, I'm so scared." I was her witness. And I held her there and I said, "I hear you. I see you. Tell me what's going on. I'm going to hug you till you feel better." And that's what each of us needed. And so this is what we're trying to do now when we realize during the holidays, I'm feeling some sort of way. You have to learn to be the witness to this inner child. And again, this is an unlearning and a relearning process, and it can be done, but it has to be done repetitiously and consistently over time. Acknowledgement and expression override regression. You are not grieving too much. You're grieving what was never allowed to be grieved in the first place. So we're going to talk about 3 steps to stay regulated while setting a boundary. Very simple. The first step is that you anchor in the body. So with your feet on the floor and your hand on your heart or belly, so you're grounding, right? You say to yourself, "I'm here, right now, and I'm safe." So you're mentally like, okay, my feet are on the floor. I'm here. My hand is on my heart. And you tell yourself your cue is I'm here and I'm safe. Number 1. Number 2, you want to orient to the now. So name silently, use your senses. Name one thing that you can feel, name one thing that you can see, and name one thing that you can hear. Okay? So you're using your hand, your ear, and your eyes. You're controlling your senses. Those are 3 senses that you're controlling. And the third thing that you need to do, well, the cue for that is this is now, I'm not back then. Now, this is right before you're going to set a boundary with someone because we become very childlike when we think we're going to actually speak up and set a boundary because we fear abandonment and rejection. The third step is speak from regulation, not from the past, not from the belly of the inner child. Speak from your higher self. Speak from your authentic self. Speak as the sovereign being that you are. Say the boundary to whoever it is you want to set a boundary with. You say it slowly and simply. Speak from a state of emotional regulation. So we say the boundary slowly and simply, no explaining, no fixing, no over explaining. And then you pause after you speak. The cue in your mind is I can tolerate the discomfort and still honor myself because it is uncomfortable when you set a boundary. But a huge part of emotional recovery and emotional regulation, healing from codependency, narcissistic abuse, is learning to accept that we're going to be uncomfortable while we go through these processes of breaking through these faulty ideas and these faulty beliefs. So it's about learning to be comfortable when we're uncomfortable. And the amazing thing is that think about yourself as upgrading. Every time you have a breakthrough and you set that boundary, you get to another level and you feel more peaceful. And then you know what? Right on the heels of that is another opportunity for growth. It's always uncomfortable. Birth is uncomfortable, but it's a process of transformation. It's a process of being born. And so this is us. Earth is a school, and we're teaching ourselves how to grow through this pain and through this conflict as best that we can. So I'm going to answer some of your questions. I will answer um, the shorter questions for the sake of time. Can you talk about the effects on the daughter of a narcissistic dad linked to the daughter's intimate relationships with men in her adulthood? They can be devastating. Um, Depending on what you experienced in terms of your narcissistic father, some narcissistic fathers sexualize their daughters. So now we have intimacy issues and we don't trust men. Or if a narcissistic father is abusive, like verbally abusive, gaslights, and calls you a whore and says you're a devil, says you're nothing, blah, 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 then you might have intimacy issues, you might have trust issues. If your father was very controlling and your mother fawned after his approval, then you might be attracted to a controlling narcissistic man because that's what you know. Remember, attraction is familiarity. Remember the C chord and the C chord. Doesn't mean it's healthy. You really have to look at your role models for you as a woman or your father as a man, and you really want to examine that and then ask yourself, like, do I at a subconscious level, do I resonate with that? And do I attract similar experiences? Am I becoming my mother? Am I attracting my father? Or am I becoming my father and attracting my mother? You really want to look at that because patterns rule. They say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. It's true. The Bible says the sins of the father and the mother fall on the children. Yeah, they pass their trauma down. What we noticed and what we absorbed in terms of energy and frequency becomes our emotional signature, becomes our vibrational frequency. It becomes what we attract. So you want to get very pragmatic and take a giant step back and ask yourself, what was my representation for a relationship? And so those are some of the ways that your relationships can be affected in adulthood. You may attract narcissists. You may have issues with pleasing a man. You might want to please him. It might feel terrifying to displease him if your father withheld love. I know that I dealt with that. And then you end up with self-abandonment. So those are some of the ways it might affect you. Hi, Lisa. Can I get out of my survival responses of saying nothing, but only communicating with yellow rocking? I think you mean, oh, well, okay. I am co-parenting with my ex after 23 years of being together. I seem to shut down, which I know is my trauma response from childhood. When I express negative opinions given about other people, which is my 5-year-old daughter is absorbing and using similar phrases. It is easy to speak with my daughter and teach her to set boundaries and correct her wording, but when I address her mother, there is no attention given to the matter and only an instant emotional attack. I want to stop using my old trauma responses with my ex partner. and be confident within myself when there are moments of friction. Any comment would be great. Thank you for your inspiration, depth, and understanding, Rob. So we have to stop making excuses for why we can't hold on to ourselves when other people don't behave well. Um, you're giving your power away to her. You're saying that she needs to be a certain sort of way for me to be a certain sort of way. And I'm saying, no, she doesn't. You're stronger than that. But if you expect her to be anything other than the way she is, and it sounds like she's very reactive to you, then you have a choice to make. You can learn what triggers her and and how she responds to you and not speak to her that way anymore because you're not going to get anywhere. Um, or you can speak to her. And when you speak to her, know that you can't control the outcome. We get tripped up because when we speak, we think other people are supposed to behave a certain way. No, they're not. Everyone is selfishly motivated. We are. We all have our own agendas. We all have what we want. You want your ex wife or whoever she is to respond a certain way. She wants you to respond a certain way. Your daughter wants you both to respond a certain way. So everybody's selfishly motivated. It's a matter of how malignant someone is in their self concern. And yes, that is a scale. There are people who are far more malignant in their selfishness, and those that can be still self motivated, but can include other people and in their desire for self and to get what they want and to feel heard and seen and all that, it's not to the exclusion of other people or the detriment to other people. So, wouldn't that be nice if we could all reach that level of emotional intelligence? But certainly, anybody that's on this call is certainly much closer to that reality than someone who doesn't think they're doing anything wrong at all. And so, if I were you, definitely work on inner child healing. You don't, because it's subconscious, it's going to keep happening. And your daughter's going to turn 15 years old one day and she might say something to you. Trust me, my 16-year-old, when my daughter turned 16, it was hell. And she said things to me that made my head spin. And so 5 is one thing, 15, 25, it's coming. So you want to make sure that you're getting ahead of this and you're not focusing and fixating on something you can't control. And the greater understanding you have about self, the more you heal your inner child trauma, the more control you're going to have internally and the less you're going to react externally. And so again, it's all subconscious. That has to be corrected. But in the short and the long and the short of it is if you want a quick advice, it would be pay attention to how often you expect her to respond in a certain way. And when she doesn't, pay attention to what happens inside of you. Now, you want to blame her for that, but a lot of this is a lack of internal boundaries where I no longer expect people to behave a certain way. I literally don't. I have no expectations. And it's wonderful. I get everybody off the hook. I'm off the hook. You're allowed to be whoever you are. And that's how I maintain my internal, I would say, thermostat. And I feel like I have a stainless steel spine because I don't care what you do. You're allowed to do whatever you want. I'm going to speak with personal authority, and what you do about it, you do about it. You can only control what you can control. But if you want a healthy relationship with your daughter, I highly recommend that you heal your trauma because both of you are just going to pass it down to her. I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer. I'm just being really, really super pragmatic with you and honest with you. You don't need me to lie to you. You need the truth. Next question. I've recently come to realize that my mom is not only codependent, but also emotionally immature. Well, codependents are emotionally immature. We're stuck in the past. She's exhausting, superficial, egocentric, limited empathy, and limited emotional awareness. This has left me reeling. I tried to stay objective and detached. I know that I am enough. Any suggestions or wisdom for when I'm in her company? It's hard to always be unseen by her. It's only hard because you expect her to see you. Don't expect her to see you. Accept it. She can't see you. She's below the veil of consciousness. She's operating from her programs and her patterns. She has no idea that you feel unseen by her. No idea. And the minute you accept that she can't see you and you don't hold it against her, like you just, okay, she is who she is. It doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. What I'm saying is, okay, that does hurt. I went through the same thing. But what's hurting us is we're in resistance to our mother's inability to see us. And the minute you come into alignment with that, like, wow, she really can't see me. And you accept that, you're in control. You're in control. Surrender is me saying that I'm no longer going to allow someone else to control how I feel. Those days are over. You want to be codependent? No problem. Maybe I'll spend less time with you. You want to be narcissistic? Maybe I'll spend less time with you. But if I know that my ex-husband is narcissistic, gaslights, stonewalls me, the whole bit. And every time he texts me, I pick up the phone. Is it me or is it him? Or if I yell at him, like, stop texting me. Stop trying to gaslight me. Is it me or is it him? Because I have the authority to shutty. I have the authority to not respond. I have the authority to accept him. When you take home a monkey from a toy store, it's going to throw shit at the wall. It's a monkey. Don't take the monkey home. Right? You want to get very, very pragmatic and very clear about this because that's where your power is. If you say she's this and she's that, you're giving your power away. When you say she's this, she's that, and that's okay, she can't be anything other than who she is, and I'm going to work on accepting that she can't see me. And the other part of that equation is you have to heal the wounds of that inner child that grew up feeling unseen. So it's not just, oh, I accept it. You have to work on that somatic energy. You have to work on those subconscious beliefs so that you can really, really come into a healing space and you no longer need her to see you because you've learned to see yourself. Next question. Why is it so difficult to rest? I'm always doing something. So many reasons. We never felt safe. Children who grew up feeling safe napped in their mother's laps. They were able to nap on their father's shoulder. They were able to rest. Children from unpredictable homes, got to stay hypervigilant. Got to stay, something's coming. The shoe's going to drop. We walk around on eggshells. So the nervous system has learned that it's safer to stay busy. That has to be reset. And that happens slowly, which is why all of my programs, one is 12 weeks, one is 8 weeks, one is 10 weeks. Collectively, it's 30 weeks because this shit doesn't happen overnight. Okay. So it's unsafe. You're hypervigilant. Your nervous system has basically been set to keep moving because that feels safer. Another issue is, a deeper issue is that we don't know how to rest. When we rest, we start to feel, and we don't know how to feel. And what we feel feels uncomfortable, and we think there's something wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that because that's authentic. When I rest, if I feel like I'm crawling out of my skin, which used to happen, there's nothing wrong with that. If there's maggots in my soul because of verbal abuse and physical abuse, psychological abuse, rejection, just a ruptured connection between me and my mother, my father, whatever. And I grew up feeling like a naked 2-year-old on a Brooklyn bridge with traffic going every which way. And I felt that unsafe as a child. There's nothing wrong with me if when I pause, I feel that anxiety. What's wrong is I don't know how to process that anxiety. That's what's wrong. I'm missing data. So that's why, You're always doing something. You're afraid to stop. Your nervous system doesn't know how to stop. You've never worked healing to the point where you're resetting your nervous system mindfully through meditation and through journaling, which has been my process. Neuroscience backed journaling prompts, neuroscience backed guided meditations at the theta level. We have to do this work and you have to do it over time. So that's why, and you'd have to practice methods to reset your nervous system. What is your advice to someone who is codependent and went no contact? It's like I'm in limbo and the invalidation fused into my mind. I can't reach my goals or make decisions for myself. I feel stuck in this breakthrough middle ground. How did you get through it? Thank you. I think for me, Michael, I was very pragmatic about it. I knew that there was a finish line and the only person that was going to get my ass over the finish line was me. You're absolutely right. Codependents are great cheerleaders. We suck when it comes to doing things for ourselves because we're passengers. We're not leaders in our lives. We're cheerleaders. And when I saw that in myself, I was like, ew, yuck, I don't want that. I want to be a leader in my life. I want to be the the champion that I've always been for other underdogs. I want to be for myself. I want to be for my inner child. So you want to start setting a goal. And then it's always helped me. And you can ask members of our community too, like the inner child work we do. One of the exercises is get pictures of your inner child and create collages of your inner child. And the reason I want my clients to do that and the students in the courses to do that is because what you cannot do for the person you think you are is so much easier to do for the inner child that you know you were. So when you leave pictures of your inner child in the bathroom, oh, okay, my inner child, I got to do it for my inner child. When there's a picture on the kitchen counter next to your Cheerios, oh, I got to do it. I don't eat Cheerios. Nobody should eat Cheerios, I don't think. But anyway, I digress. But you leave pictures out of your inner child, like it's a check-in. There's an inner child in me. So now I'm doing things and setting goals for my inner child because we are great champions for everybody else. We're great cheerleaders and we need that type of self-love for ourselves. And that's how I got through it. Where it was like, first of all, in terms of going no contact, the first time I went no contact with my mother and father, oh my God, I was terrified. I look back now, I was like, what was I afraid of? Like they deserved it. But back then, I was still unhealed. I was still operating from survival programs. I was still below the veil of consciousness. It was still my inner child that felt all of this anxiety. And the first time I went no contact, it was about a year. And what I told myself is that, I always think about what was it crazy? What was it? Dirty Dancing. Nobody puts baby in a corner. Like I was like, no one's abusing my inner child anymore. And suddenly all of this anger came to the surface and I could protect myself. But I was really in my head on a psychological level, I was protecting my inner child, not me, my inner child. And suddenly I could do that. I could look my mother in the face and say, I'm not 12 anymore. Move out of the way. You don't get to talk to me like that anymore. Because I felt I was doing it for my inner child. And that has merged into now I just speak up for myself. I know my inner child's inside of me, but I also now I've connected to my higher self also. So it's a beautiful trinity. So I have my body that's anchored. I have my inner child, which represents my past, and I respect that. I have my now, and I have my higher self that's pulling me into the future. So it's this beautiful integration process, but you have to go through the birthing process. Think about you know, um, having 3 children, it's an incredibly, incredibly painful experience. Like, I can't believe that women go through this and don't die. We don't die. Like, what? And we keep having children. The world keeps being filled with billions of people. It's absolutely incredible. I can assure you it's a painful process. So is codependent recovery because you're giving birth to the true self. So you have to be willing to go through that. You've got to be willing to go through. I said no, and I'm protecting my inner child, and they're bitching about me and they're angry at me and they may never talk to me again. Oh, well, Why would you want your inner child to grow up in a pit of snakes? Anyway, you'll find your tribe. You just keep vibing with health and recovery. You will find your vibe. I have a whole new family. I have a whole new slew of friends because I've done this work, because I've changed at a vibrational level. My entire world has changed because I have changed. So keep going. Helen, does your 8-week course include this type of work as in non locality? I'm a graduate of the 12-week and I'm ready for the next step. Thank you for your work. As a matter of fact, I updated the 8-week masterclass this year because I'm always taking feedback. As you know, if you took the 12-week class, we have 3 assessments that we ask you to give us your feedback. Been running the class since 2016, and the feedback that I received was, I love learning about the brain science. I love the way you talk about the brain. I love the way you talk about trauma and the brain and how my body reacts and how the subconscious program was formed. It makes so much sense to me. And so I wanted to edit the masterclass so that it piggybacked off of all of this neuro information. And I wanted to include the latest groundbreaking research in trauma recovery and in neuroscience. So the latest version of the 8-week masterclass is called the Neuro Manifestation class. And yes, we talk about non-locality and locality. Soul School is sort of like a college course, and we go deeper into the quantum mechanics. We go deeper into psychology. We go deep into metaphysics. We go deep into mythology. We go deep into spirituality, spiritual teachings, and we blend it all together. And that's why we call it soul school, because earth is school. And the more we learn, the more we grow. And so I've created this cohesive system, the 12-week, 8-week, and soul school, which is a 10-week class that takes students on this arch where they were their programming and didn't know it. And now they're identifying as their spiritual whole integrated self. And I leave no stone unturned, where I actually prove that you can do this work if you do it consciously. To answer your question, yes. Can you say anything about the grief of a death of a mother who you have a wound with because they did not protect you? My mother is dying of cancer. I love her and have grief, but I'm also conflicted. As in the last few years, my family were abusive and she didn't protect me. I have a lot of inner child grief, both for the loss of my mom at an existential level, and also the grief for how it felt like I did not have a mother when I needed her the most, because she revolves around my dad. So this is about surrender. There's nothing wrong with feeling grief. Your inner child didn't get what she needed. Your grief is authentic. Embrace it. It's real. And now your mom's dying. That's real. And you need to come into alignment with reality. And the reality is that that's painful. The reality, you have to give yourself a break. You have to tell the truth. Wow, I never had the relationship that I wanted with my mom, and I probably never will. I probably never will. And that sucks. And that's what grief is. It's telling the truth. You have to come into alignment with it. And I really wish that she protected me and she didn't. And that sucks. But I love her. And I wish things were different. But I only have this limited time left. And she was below the veil. And if she's codependent, she was in pain her whole life. And she never found her voice. So I can either spend the last few years or moments or months or whatever thinking about that and resenting her, or I can move into a state of accepting, like, I really wish things were different, but at least I have these moments with her now. And then after mom passes, if that's what's going to happen, and again, I just tell it like it is. You don't need to be bullshitted. You need to know the truth. We can handle the truth. And if and when mom passes away, you're going to have to do some grief work around that too. Acceptance of everything, inviting grief to the kitchen table, having tea with your grief. Like, wow, you have to grieve this. The inner child has to grieve. I never had it. I never had it. I had to do that work with my mom, and I can tell you it was so refreshing. And then when she had 2 strokes and she was diagnosed with MS, then she developed dementia. It was the most wonderful time I've ever had with my mom, believe it or not. Her dementia took away her personality, took away her trauma. I think she forgot that she hated me. I know that sounds crazy, but I think she forgot. And whatever was whatever her ego was, it was gone. And I'm very fortunate, but I do not agree with a lot of the very well-known people out there that say you should not forgive. I don't believe that. I think that is the worst advice ever. When you don't forgive and you're resentful, you give someone else your power. You are in the stress response. You're not in the parasympathetic system. The parasympathetic versus the sympathetic nervous system. Sympathetic is survival. You're stuck. The vortex of your heart is squeezing. Your heart is always squeezing when you're in a state of non-forgiveness. And forgiveness doesn't mean, oh, Mr. Narcissist, come sleep with me, and stonewall me and gaslight me and idealize me and then cast me away, discard me tomorrow. Have an affair with my mother and Trixie around the block. And I'll take you back. That's not what I'm saying. That's not forgiveness. That's not forgiveness. Forgiveness is this happened, but I'm not carrying the weight of it anymore. Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. I give it back to you. You let someone else's karma take care of them. You don't have to carry the weight of that anymore. That's what forgiveness is to me. I'm going to forgive everybody. I'm going to forgive everybody's trespasses because I want to live a long effing ass time. And I don't want to get sick. Yep, I'm going to forgive you and I'm going to forgive you. I'm going to forgive you. You are going to be so not an issue for me that you're a fart in the wind. I don't even think about you anymore. That's how much I forgave you. Okay? That's strength. That's strength. That's strength. So hopefully you will be able to move through the stages of grief like I did, wanting to forgive your mother because it's the best thing for you. But you have to grieve. You have to grieve the inner child. Okay? So I'm going to answer maybe 1 or 2 more questions and then we'll call it a day. At 68, after 38 years together, is it dumb to divorce or should I figure out how to live my own parallel life with strong boundaries? Seems foolish at my age to be single again and go through the growth phase. I feel like I don't have the time in the last years of my life. Maureen, this is a very personal question. I don't know how bad it is. I don't know what it is that you're looking to achieve. I don't know what you're desiring now at your age. I don't know how the marriage could be holding you back from that. You just might need to have a really honest conversation with your partner around what it is that you want to do with the rest of your life and what you intend to do and how you intend to do it. Healing is authenticity and letting the chips fall where they may. You might be married to someone like I was. It was like, that ain't going to fly. You're not going to get better. No, no, no. You're not going to set boundaries with me. You're not going to go back to school. You're not going to keep reading these self-help books. Oh no, that's not going to work. You're not going to keep staying in therapy. Oh no, no, you're not going to keep setting boundaries. Literally, that was the conversation. And so then the decision is made for you. But I would really ask yourself, like, what is it that you want? What is it that you seek? And figure out do you need to get a divorce to find those things? What is it that you want to do? You want to travel by yourself? Then have a conversation. I want to travel by myself. Do you want to take up a tap dancing class? What do you want to do? What is it that you're looking for? Clarify that first, because lots of times after long-term relationships, we just get so sick of one another. And we're like, ugh, we get caught in a rut and we think that the answer is to get rid of this guy, right? And then I can live my life. True, then maybe you can. But it's also true that you have to really be super honest with yourself and ask yourself, what is it that I'm really looking for? And get out of the rut of the mundane and tell the person, this is what I'm looking for. It's like that song Margaritaville, right? Where, the I forgot the name of the singer, but he puts an ad out in the he puts a personal ad in the classifieds that he's looking for someone who likes to drink pina coladas, right? And walking in the rain. And when he gets to the bar to meet the person who answered the ad, it's his own lovely lady. So it turns out they wanted the same things, but they got into a rut. And so, I can't answer this question ethically because I don't know the dynamics and I don't know um, what your partner is like, and I don't know what you really want. I don't know what it is you're trying to achieve. But I hope that some of those ideas help you a little bit. Last question. Um, the last time I saw my sisters and my mom 5 years ago, they verbally attacked me and gaslit me. Since then, I have felt super unsafe around them. I feel a lot of anxiety now just thinking about having any interaction with them. How can I get rid of this anxiety and pain? Okay, the other thing that I really hope, and this is a really great way to end this session, is this idea that there's nothing wrong with this anxiety and pain. If somebody walked into your office and, took a metal pipe and smashed it across your femur, you'd have pain and you'd have anxiety and nobody would question it, right? I'd be like, of course, Carrie, that should have never happened to you. Your anxiety is normal. Even you. Oh, I have anxiety and pain. You wouldn't judge it. You wouldn't judge it. We have been sold a bunch of bullshit. And it's not just our parents, it's society. Women aren't supposed to age. Women aren't supposed to get angry. Men aren't supposed to cry. We're supposed to get along with everybody. No, we're not. If I have a narcissistic, pain in the ass neighbor who lets her dog shit on my lawn, okay, this is someone who doesn't give a rat's ass about anybody else but herself. Not my cup of tea. I don't have to like her. I don't have to get along with her. I can avoid her. And I even have a right to say, excuse me, like, this isn't going to fly. This is actually illegal. Let's cooperate here. Right. It doesn't mean I have to like her. My point is that we've been told a bunch of bullshit. If you come from a dysfunctional home, you weren't allowed to cry. You weren't allowed to say no. You weren't allowed to disagree. You had to be compliant. Then you go to school. Okay. You're supposed to sit there for 6 or 7 hours a day as a child that is full of all this energy and not move. And not move. Right? Not move. Teachers are mean to you. You're not allowed to say that. Not allowed to say that. Not allowed to say that. Kid punches you. You're not allowed to punch him back because you might get suspended. Right? Kids are spitting on you, making fun of you. You're not supposed to fight back. Right? It's a bunch of bullshit. Right? It's so terrible. Like the messages that we receive are so mixed. And then we have people, mostly men, no insult to any of the men here on the chat. I appreciate you being here. But I don't think you'll disagree with me, and you're welcome to. But then we have a segment of society, mostly men, that are praised for being powerful, domineering, and even narcissistic when it comes to business. We praise these men, praise them. But a woman comes along and voices her opinion, and she's a bitch. A woman cries, she's too emotional. Do you know how many women are misdiagnosed in the emergency room? Because doctors look at women and say, oh, well, she's just over emotional. A man walks in with the same symptoms, he gets treated like a human being. It's just reality. They've done studies on it. And the reason I'm going through this whole soliloquy is because we have to start thinking about our emotions in the correct way. If you were attacked by your mother and your sister 5 years ago, your nervous system remembers that, and it should. And God, creator, source, whatever, whoever created you, loves you so much, they want you to remember that. And just in case you forgot, I'm going to send you some anxiety every time you think about them. Why, pray tell? Because God loves you that much, that God doesn't want you to forget what these two people did to you. Why? Why? Why would I have the ability to recall that so it doesn't happen again? So that you can avoid them, so that you can set a boundary with them, so you do not let your guard around them. That's why you remember it. That's what the anxiety is about. That's what the fear is about. It's warning you. You don't want to get rid of it. You want to listen to it. You want to honor it. Thank you for telling my truth. Thank you, body. Thank you, anxiety. Thank you, pain, because nobody in this whole flipping universe, the 8 billion people on God's green earth, not one person, not one person, not one effing person knows what that felt like to be abused by those two people that I loved and they should protect me. Nobody knows what that feels like, but you know what, who and what does? My body does. And my nervous system remembers. That's authentic. Why don't you want to get rid of that? What you want to do is learn how to master it. You want to learn how to listen to it. You want to learn how to work through it. You want to learn how to honor it. You want to learn how to honor it. Anxiety and pain is telling you, dear one, you need boundaries around your mother and your sister. And every time you think about them and you feel anxiety and you feel fear, you say, thank you, body, for reminding me. You were there. You recorded the whole effing conversation. Verbatim, verbatim. You saw everything. You felt everything. And every time I think about them, my body goes, remember, Carrie, be careful, be careful, be careful. And guess what? The more you say, got it, body, thank you, memory, thank you, nervous system, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Now you're in control and you don't have the emotional intensity anymore. And you're not a deer in headlights anymore. And now when your mother calls or your sister calls or whatever, you're not afraid anymore. You know how to set a boundary. You don't expect them to be nice to you. You don't go and be an ornery bitch to them and look to get triggered and stir up the past unnecessarily, because that wouldn't be emotionally intelligent or wise. But when people show you who they are, believe them. Believe them. A child keeps going in Stockholm syndrome because they're defenseless and they're dependent. Adults, no, 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 no. We don't have to do that anymore. We don't have to do that anymore. You have a right to set a boundary with them. You should not want to get rid of that anxiety and that pain. That's the last thing you want to do. You want to embrace it. You want to understand it. You want to honor it. You want to learn how to use that energy to set a boundary and to develop your stainless steel spine. So that concludes our session for this evening. Thank you so much. I would like you, if you are not a member of the Breakthrough Warrior membership site, I invite you. It's $49 a month. You get access to the Loving the Self video and meditation program, the boundary building workbook that you can download, the Law of Attraction workbook. You get access to the 12-part advanced audio on codependency. You get access to the codependency through the years, another 12-part video. You get access to the 4-part narcissism series, not available anywhere else. You get access to my complete meditation library, complete affirmation, an affirmation library. You get access to 2 years of live group coaching. You get access to, I think, 2 or 3 years of mini courses. I mean, I created a membership. I created a membership that I wish that I had when I was going through the recovery journey. And I also created a community around the membership. So it's a private community. And I really recommend that if you're interested in this work, like we just had a live stream last night and it's recorded up in the Facebook group. I really do recommend that you join that. It's just an amazing, amazing community and you get access to so many of my courses. Yeah, and if you're interested in that, just visit coach@lisaaromano.com. You can send me an email or visit www.lisaaromano.com and click where it says Breakthrough Warrior membership. And if you ever have any questions, you can reach me at coach@lisaaromano.com. So thank you so much for being here. I hope that you feel uplifted. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much. See you soon.